everybody. Thank you very much for coming. And let's just start with a moment of silence. Thank you. Yes, so it was, I talked with Julie before Dorothy actually was here and just, thinking how we can best come in contact with her and give her space to share of her wisdom. And so I invited her to focus group, and I was very pleased to hear her in the conference and so on. But at the same time, I had booked this evening, and she was not very pleased about it because she does not like very much to give talks. So what we then somehow kind of compromised was that we would call it dialogue. And so that's why we have set up here these chairs, and of course they are waiting for people to sit down on them. And what we want to do is to, after Dorothy has said some introductory whatever. So that actually the people in here, they can start asking questions, and it gives a kind of more private or more focused way of talking. And then when one of the persons feel they have asked their question, they can step out of the circle and somebody else can step in. It's some of you might know it as fishbowl. So that's what we would like to do, and even though you don't know a question yet, so you still can sit down here already, and you can, so we can see afterwards. So just don't leave her alone. So come down and yeah, sit with us, would you? Yes. Thank you, Julia.
No, Julio. That's fine.
I think Roger, I think you have you there.
That's fine.
You make a film call too. So, thank you very much, Simon. So there are two more chairs. Great. Oh, actually, one more. I mean, we can also leave it for God. So, and what we actually do, or not what we do, but what Barbara does before Dorothy starts, is that she plays a bit on the flute, and then just your being moved through the flute, you just can take into listening to Dorothy. So we ask you not to applaud afterwards. Yeah?
answer all these easy questions you're going to give me. I was asked to make a few observations on the community since many long years ago that I was here. And so I've made a few notes which I'll just mention first before questions. I don't know how many of you went to Michelle's small rights talk the other day in the community. I couldn't go, but I watched the tape. And I think that she's done a wonderful work and put a lot of time, love and labor into considering the community and giving us an aid to help us clarify what it's all about. And I think it would be a very good thing if we can follow her pattern, just a very small group, I would think, and find out, ask the questions with kinesiology, and get the answers about how everything fits in. I think this is the wonderful work she's done. I'm very, very grateful to her. She can help us give a technique to find clarity. Mind you, the technique she's given isn't what I would call as the Findhorn approach, because our founding energy is to help us to get within, to the God within, and not necessarily to get answers outside that source. To turn within to find our answers. And if we turn within, we get a different perspective, even on the questions. When we get to that area of peace and joy within ourselves, the questions that we might have been asking from the outer level get completely changed because we're seeing it from a different perspective. And the whole point is not to wasn't to grow a good garden and find the answers how to grow a garden, but how to get within and make that inner link with our inner divinities. So we have the answers for any situation. So, but I think all the same, we use every technique we can to help us to get into that innerness in ourselves. We can't, of course, this inner goal, which I think was the foundation of the community, to link up with the God within, is without a commitment. We can't go beyond that because that's what every teacher is telling us what to do, is helping us to do in every religion and every culture. So we can abide by that with all safety. And I think in the education, it's the same thing. We're not going to tell people outwardly what to do, but to help them to go within and find what they themselves know. We can all do it. We'll often think we can't go within, but and admittedly, Peter, Eileen, and I had 20 years before we came here training to do just that, or after 10 years, we did that sort of thing and had to have obedience and service to that inner voice for many long years before we came here. And I don't think we can throw out discipline and obedience to the inner voice. It's a sort of dirty word in these days, and we don't sort of think much of it, but I think it's necessary for the spiritual path. I would suggest that we take a time to just find that. It isn't something that's so difficult. We think it is. Somehow finding the divinity within us, of God within us, seems such a huge thing. But it's there in the surface of ourselves all the time, struggling to come out. And whenever we find the beauty in something, it's there, and that's the God in us surfacing. When we get an awesome view of something wonderful, that's the God in us. And we can always remember those times and experience more and more of them. Another thing I wanted, in the early Findhorn days, we functioned on our edges. We never knew what we were going to do. We didn't have any set routines. And it was always, we had to be ready for a moment's change. And it was very exhilarating, very interesting. And we weren't set in any ways. We had to be open for whatever was coming, and we just lived that way. I found coming into the foundation now, I don't find that. We've sort of become middle-aged and have settled down, and we've got our positions and our places, and we haven't got our edges, except through money. That's taking us to our edges. Are we willing now to go beyond our own comfort zone? Are we willing to serve whatever comes up? It's so easy to get into edges and to have long stays, get settled down and stay and think this is forever. And I myself got into that place. After I'd been here 11 years, I thought that I was going to stay here forever. That was just the way it was. And I had to be sort of rustled out of it. I had expected to stay, just like maybe some of you. And I had to have, I won't go into the story of it, but I had to get sort of inwardly thrown out. Thank you. Another thing I wanted to bring up was the difference too is our connection with nature. Now, our connection with nature was what drew people, what was made the difference of this community from any other one, which drew people from all over the world. Open heart somehow. There was some truth in that, the life that nature is alive and has intelligence, that touched people all over the world and brought people here. And we seem to have thrown that out. We're doing things maybe with nature, but the fact of the inner cooperation with it doesn't seem to have come along with it. The flower essences, in a sense, have taken on that aspect. Because every time we attune to a part of nature, we're attuning to a wonderful quality that's in that nature. And it brings out a response to the actual quality in ourselves. So whenever we tune into nature, we awaken and enhance ourselves. And we tune into the wonder and beauty of a flower or whatever it is. And that helps us quite apart from the things we can do that are ecologically helpful to the planet. We need to do it, of course. The planet is feeding back to us through the pollution that we have to change our ways. But it's not just changing our ways, it's having a living relationship in our lives with the living forces of nature, which are here and sharing this planet with us. Something that every culture in the past has done. We've sort of thrown it out for the last 300 years, but obviously it's meant to come back, especially at this time when the planet needs it so badly, and we need it ourselves, because we are part of nature. Two more small points. One is, so many people when I meet outside the foundation come here because of community. That's what Findhorn means to them, is a community of people. Well, that to me is not enough. Community depends again on our inner contact. If we haven't got their inner contact, community doesn't work, because it's from that space of joy and peace and love within us that we can relate to not only to other people, but to ourselves. And if we come here just because of something outside of ourselves, we're still depending on the outward links and not making the inward links. And we leave the community and we're bereft again. We're back in the same place. But when we really work on and commit ourselves to making that inner contact, that goes wherever we are, and we can always, it's always with us. One other thing, and that was love has such a funny meaning in our culture. We've only got one word for it. I believe the Greeks had 5. And we were allowed to limit it to one of those other levels. Our else thinks it's a very soppy, sentimental thing. It's not. It's one of the toughest things going. It doesn't condone anything. It's trying to bring the best out for everything. And that means not supporting certain things. Jesus threw the money traders out of the temple. He wasn't just loving to them. I thought at first the angelic love was heartless and far away, because with my first contact with it, it would just seem like that, and it just seemed very distant. And I thought, oh well, I thought about the fairies are supposed to have stolen human babies and put their own changelings in the place, and that wasn't a very loving thing, so I just thought, oh well, I guess they're not very loving. And then years later, I thought maybe I'm thinking they're not loving, and that
dimension is not loving, because I'm not. And so I sort of asked them about it. And they said, well, we live in a sea of love, but you have been expecting a human love focused on you, like it is from a family, or as it is on children, or from a lover or something. But they love everything. So isn't that focusedness? And so I realized I was being shown a few of the dimensions of love, which take in everything. And of course, the wonderful thing is that God within is both personal and impersonal. So we get it from there. And those are just the points I wanted to bring up. So, anybody have any questions that I can answer?
We even have a mic for it, so.
No, I actually have a question. I
Maybe
don't.
it's not on.
Oh,
Down.
the first
Bottom,
one.
very far down.
That? You see, I don't have my glasses now. Okay. So, I remember, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before when you were here, you spoke about the angel of Findhorn being not terribly happy. I don't remember exactly what your words were, but there was something about the angel feeling bereft of our love or something. Have you a sense of that having changed?
I don't remember that. Whoops. My experience of the angel of Findhorn in the sanctuary is just the usual angelic service of gathering up all the good energies that are in the sanctuary and putting them up where they're needed all over the world. I'm not one who tunes into those things about angels leaving and going somewhere else. As far as I'm concerned, the angel of Findhorn is still attached to Findhorn.
Good, thank you. So.
When you first came here and you helped set up this community, it's arguable that this place grew organically. It seems at some point there's a question as to whether this place turned from becoming a community into an organisation. And when you think about our alignment with nature, I wonder if you have any particular views about the nature of an organisation with the structure and the imposed kind of way that we've tried to organise and structure this place. Things like being a member of the APCA or not being a member of the categories of religion to live here or be here, as opposed to a naturally growing community.
That's a terribly difficult question. I'm not an organizer, and I would hate to have to organize this community. It just isn't the way I think. And that there are people outside who aren't members and so on, isn't the way I think of it. To me, all the people who've been drawn to the community because of the spiritual aura of the place and seeking for it are part of the energy of the place, and they're contributing their energy. I don't know the answers from the organizational point of view. I haven't been here when all this is going on, all these things have been tried out. And I think it's a place where we still have to find answers. It's where we can experiment and grow and practice, as we've been doing.
It seems very important at this point to include as many people rather than exclude people in the wider sense as well.
Yes, I think so. You may have to make divisions in different ways and have them linked in different ways. I don't know the answers. I'm hoping that maybe some of this new tool given with kinesiology will maybe be helpful in that direction.
That was the question I was going to ask you, Dorothy. If the original agreement that was set up is still operating as Michelle Smallright seems to say it is. Do you think that it's necessary in any way to create another agreement for the emerging community to find out from the intelligent nature kingdom if there is another focus for the wider community? Do you think it needs a separate invocation for its development and evolution?
I don't think so, because I don't see the separation. I don't see why it can't all fit in, but we may have to reword our definition
Yes.
to make it include things that weren't in operation at the time when it was started. But that's not excluding them, it's just rewording to bring it all together in a greater, more balancing whole.
But that has to be done consciously. That rewording has to be done.
Yes, I mean, to me, the angels aren't to give us information. That's a human thing. It's a human thought. They give us balance. They know what works. But we're the ones with the minds, and we're the ones that have to ask the questions. And of course, as I said before, I found if we go into our soul level, shall we say, the questions look different. And they are different. I've often gone in with a question, and getting into that dimension of peace and love, the question vanishes. And I see it from another perspective. And what we want to keep on doing is seeing it from the perspective of wholeness, the perspective of love. I don't know if that's a helpful answer.
Yes, thank you. Yes and no.
We would like to have it all handed to us no better, I think. And it isn't like that. We get it from within. And we'll each get it differently because we're all different. We're bound to be all different because it comes from our minds, which are all different. But if it's coming from that high level of ourselves, the differences won't fight each other. They'll blend.
I think it was easier for you finding the direction and
Of course
purpose when there's 3 people.
Of course
when
it
there's
was.
300, it's a bit more difficult.
I agree. Far more difficult.
Yes.
But that's the challenge. That's
Yes.
something that,
That's the edge.
if it can't be worked among 300 people, it's not much use to the world. Let's make it work. And I'm sure we can. We've got everything we need. And wonderful people here. That strikes me all the time whenever I come back. Is the wonderful people that are here and that have been drawn to Fintar. And I just think that's great.
Yes, I have. Well, I don't know if it's a question. It's something that just came that perhaps you could say something about. I imagine when you and Irene and Peter started Finhorn, that probably every day you sat in some kind of attunement together. But this is just how I imagine it was. And it is, today we don't only have 3 people, there's hundreds of people as we just heard. But I have a feeling in a community that's built on spirit in this way, that in some way it could be important, or at least very useful. I know we have sanctuary here and so on, but if there really was a period each day when we all sat in meditation, each person tuned into the absolute highest they can tune into, and blending those energies together. And as I say, I'm not sure now if it is a question or just something that just came up.
Well, the way I think it is now, I found that wonderful inner attunement by myself alone. And when I came into Sanctuary, that was a different kind of attunement. It was for the whole. And to me, it wasn't a time of learning, of going within and being taught as I was when I was on my own. It was a kind of blending to the whole. So what I think is important is getting that personal contact and living with that. And from that will come everything we need. Will come our love and our bridges to each other, or whatever job we had to do, like that I was told I had a job to commune with nature and so on. That all came when I was on my own, having my own inner contact. We didn't really get together in the early days. Before that, Peter used to sit us down so we'd get messages for him. He couldn't meditate himself, but he made sure we did. And that was very helpful.
We got it earlier on in the night or in the
Yes,
morning.
we did every night, remember?
Yeah, I just have a feeling somehow it could be important. Not tuning in meditation to get any particular message or to get anywhere, but just blending the energies together on that level.
Well, yeah, I think that's very important. On the other hand, we want to be conscious of things. To me, it's no good tuning into nothingness, or we want to be aware of what we're doing. And to me, that the God within us is going to share what we need to each one of us individually. It's going to be different, but we want to know what it is. We've been given a mind, and it isn't just focusing on nothing. But as you say, if we can get together and tune our energies, but I think it's good to have a focus.
I'll give it to somebody.
Yes.
I'm very curious about how you contact with nature now. How do you do it in practice?
Well, the same way as I always do. I have to tune to my own higher nature, and then I focus on the higher nature of whatever I'm attuning to. I don't do it so often with nature now, because I know their viewpoint, shall we say. I've been doing it enough times, and I know sort of thing. And I'm not particularly into nature as the green leaves and stuff. I'm into more the angelic level, the soul level of humans, human groupings. Because it's the humans that have upset the planet. Nature's always going to do its thing and balance. We're the ones that need to balance it. And I have found that there are angels and all sorts of human things, like families and companies and cities and countries. And it's important that we recognize that and link up with them, because that makes a tremendous difference in the way we live in these situations.
I've come up with another question. We talk a lot here at this time about spiritual education, and that's part of what we do in the foundation. What do you think about that? And what do you think about that?
Well, I'm all for it. I don't know exactly what you're doing in spiritual education.
Me neither. But we talk a lot about it, and maybe you can make some suggestion about, this is what we pretend to do.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think we could do that for people, not just people coming to do Experience Week, but say for people coming to do the Foundation Year Program or LCG or whatever? What would be your suggestions at some key points that should be present?
Well, I know in the past you used to do some study papers, and I gather those aren't being used now. I mean, as far as I know, that was very good stuff. And they could be resurrected. I don't know why they were thrown out. But to me, what is most important is to have a time and a training in that inner attunement. At least a practice of it, even if it's only individual practice. I, at the time, had to have an outer discipline to do it, because I didn't have the inner discipline. I don't know if people here would ever accept an outer discipline to do it nowadays.
Julia. But the problem becomes, how do you train people in attunement? I can remember in the earlier days of my time here when the people would talk about other people as being not on, in a way which suggested that somehow they were out of attunement.
Speaking from
But
the
basically,
personality level.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the only sort of judgment I've ever heard rendered about the question of whether someone was or was not in attunement. So how, therefore, do you train somebody in an attunement? What would that mean?
I think there are lots of people here who are attuned and could take on that job. I mean, and there are certain rules. I mean, if I hear someone reading a message that is criticizing someone else, I know jolly well that's not from the highest. There are certain rules. If it's going to puff up one's ego and make oneself very self-important, you know that's not from the highest. You know that's from the personality level. They're very obvious things. And we can help one another with these things. Mostly, people see it in us when we speak from the personality level. And with love, one can bring up these things and help one see where one's made a mistake. When I started, I always asked for cleansing and purifying, and asked to surround myself with light, or something to make me feel that I wouldn't get into nonsense. And my biggest, so I always did that to begin with, and tried to attune to the highest that I knew, which is the highest experience I'd had, and we've all had high experiences, and we can remember them. And I've tried to get back to the same energy. And try and get into that love and joy or peace, whatever it was, and then open myself to what God needed to say. And that was a very positive thing, choosing to be in that inner space, which had been a peace and a great joy to me. And then one day, I felt there was something, in the first year, I think, there was something to be told to me. And I went straight into it. The minute I got low, and I was working at the time, and then I got out of the job, I sat down, and instead of getting myself into this space of joy and peace and so on, I just opened up and listened. And I got something about a man in my group being my partner. And I thought it was out of timing. I thought it was we weren't ready for that sort of thing. But I still shared it with the group, and it just about broke us up completely, because it was a subconscious longing on my side, which I hadn't recognized, and had come from a personality level. It had come from this desire, unknown desire of myself. And after that, I made jolly sure that I was in a state of love and joy and peace before I let myself write anything down.
You see, I mean, to my mind, and I've been here obviously some time, I mean, it just seems to me that spirituality is such intrinsically nebulous stuff. And it's so difficult to know. Sorry?
I say that's your opinion. I'm very concrete.
Okay, you'll have to explain what you mean by concrete in that case.
Well, I think that she hears a distinct voice, for example. She goes,
It's the God within that I'm listening to, and that's within myself. In my being.
Hands up, all those who hear the God within in the room. Good. I want you all to meet with me at some time individually and tell me what you mean by that.
The God within interviews.
I mean, part of what I think is a problem is that, or at least is a challenge here, is that obviously we do have Eileen's experience of actually hearing a voice. There's also the notion, even in Peter's day, that we should all spend time in sanctuary, regardless of whether we hear voices or not. But the object of the exercise then and now seems to be to hear a voice.
no.
Many people don't hear voices.
I don't hear a voice.
I know you don't, which is why so what is the point, therefore, of being in sanctuary for you?
What is the point of what?
Why do you spend time in sanctuary?
At the moment, to lend my energies to the whole. To send love to the world, or to wherever it is.
Why do you, Roger?
Well, sometimes I wonder. I mean, I find it a good centering exercise in terms of, calming myself, preparing myself for the day. sometimes, I have two different kinds of approaches. One is to actually do a sort of an arcane school meditation that I've been doing for 20 years. That's good for focusing my mind, but I often think it's better to, I find it more fruitful to have nothing particular in mind, so that whatever comes up presents itself, as it were, from my attention. Most of the time, I would say that that is stuff that comes from my life, unresolved material, stuff that might come up in some kind of dream context or post-dream context, because I usually have to stumble down there right out of bed to make it at all. But you know, it is personal stuff. But I also find that is really the richest stuff that tends to come, because otherwise I'm just basically training myself in, you know, in meditation, contemplation, you know, focusing, sending love and light to the world. I mean, all these are very nice, repetitive routines, but you know, never do I experience God speaking to me.
I think you don't, Roger, and I bet you do. I read something recently which sort of reminded me of this. It's from Brother Francis Keating or something, talking about centering prayer, Christian prayer, and his idea of doing is to repeat a phrase all the time and focus on that, like Jesus, 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 or Ram, 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 or whatever you want, which always doesn't mean a thing to me. But he said, it isn't, the idea is just to get into a rhythm of doing that, but the real reason is to give consent to God to come into you, to consent to be in the presence of God. And it seems to me you're not giving consent because you don't think you can do it. And I think
well, I mean, obviously I do think I can do it. I wouldn't be doing it all these
but
years.
you're expecting something. You're expecting...
I'm not expecting anything anymore. I don't expect anything anymore. I'm trying with expectation, without expectation. You know, never does God speak to me, or do I experience God speaking to me in the sense in which Eileen says that God speaks to her.
Yes, but you're expecting a voice then, the sense that Eileen's God speaking to her. Don't expect...
Well, I was for a few years, but I'm not expecting even that anymore.
I mean, get on with this. We'll do it sometime alone, Roger.
Yes, until the next time alone. All right. Anyone else want this microphone? Yes, of course.
And also this Keating thing, he said that half the stuff that comes up in meditation is, as you say, it comes from my own life. In the psychological stuff, he said, don't focus on that. That's going to come up in your everyday life. It's mostly 80% nonsense anyway. And that's to be, and psychologists say you should focus on that, but no, focus on giving the consent. And that can be done outside of meditation, these other things. I like that.
I do exactly as you do, and I listen to my voice, and that's God for me. Yeah.
You listen to your voice in what sense?
Okay, I came in here tonight. I was pretty sad this night and upset about things, and I didn't know why I should be here, but I went here. Yeah, I came in here, saw these chairs, and wow, it'd be nice to sit in that chair or whatever. That's soft and quite nice. And I sat up there, and then 5 minutes later, someone told me that, or told us that we could sit there. Then I sat down here. And here I am, sitting, talking to you about spirituality and the God within and my voice, and yeah, it's very simple. It's really simple. And in one way, I've heard you before in meetings and raising questions. Yeah, I hear, in one way, I hear that you expect something. That's what I hear. And in one way, I don't know what it is. Maybe I have to find out. You'll be doing it, so yeah, that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
One of the first things I was told was to throw away the critical analyzing mind. That's pretty rough.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well, God said, roll up a little ball and throw it out the window. Which made me laugh. And listen to the universal mind. To me, it's what you want to listen to, what you're focusing on. And I'd say, all right, I don't want to listen to you, I want to listen to something else. turn away from it. On and on and on.
Dorothy, I'd like to tie in this discussion about your voice with something you mentioned about energies before. Something that came up during this discussion is, I mean, for me, the process is about listening, feeling that I've heard something within, and then trying it out, and then risking making a mistake.
Yeah.
And then taking that back into meditation or whatever, and going, oh, okay, so maybe that wasn't the voice that I thought I was hearing after all.
Right.
And it's about trial and error. And for me, living in this place is about testing things out. Screwing up sometimes, and then having to apologise or repair the damage, and then forgiving myself and going on, and somehow refining until after 20 years of training, maybe I'll get it somewhere. But at least living in a place like this is a good opportunity to live that life, and also we can escape from each other. So if there's a karma that's created between us, then because we live in a small community, we have to live with that and move on from it. So it seems like a good laboratory for working in this way. So I think to bring that back to what Roger was saying, and for me it's not so critical if I get it wrong, because what are we here for? To get it right the first time. So,
Yes, I had a teacher once, he said, for the good, don't sit in the fence, whatever you do, try it out. Be a good dog. Really, it's just, you'll find out in the action.
Yeah. I wonder how that could be engendered in a sort of larger scale for how we are as the foundation. Are we prepared to really take risks and make mistakes? Or it seems very, sometimes I feel we're trying to do everything right perfectly all the time. I wonder about this edge too. I wonder if you have anything to say about that.
Well, I can't talk about a community edge.
Yeah.
I think we have to try out these edges individually, and then maybe when we're getting a little bit clearer on the action that comes with it, we can make it more community-wise.
I want to come back to the angels, hearing about family angels and company angels. Does it make a difference to them whether we know about them or not? And how can we help to communicate or cooperate? And is there like a beginner's manual or something like this?
Well, I don't know if there's a beginner's manual, but we just try it. I think this is a time, for example, of communicating with the family angels and clearing up karma. I think that's one of the things that all the family abuse and all the stuff that's coming up that's been going wrong, and there's a dysfunctional families. We're here to see it, become conscious of it. And by that, becoming conscious of it and then changing our attitude and breaking the old patterns, we're clearing the way for the angels to work openly. And I think the more consciously we can do it, the more we're allowed to clear it up in ourselves.
So they can only work after we've kind of gone through the stuff and the negative patterns, or?
Yeah, they work through us. For instance, when I first changed into an angel of a country, when I went back to Canada, and wondering if it had any relevance, and they said it couldn't do its work because we didn't know what we were, we Canadians, because it works through people. So we've got to find our own identity in all levels. And of course our major identity is the divine within us. And then all these things work out. Sounds a bit...
Well, just following up on that, does it make any difference, in your opinion, whether we begin our meetings here by invoking the angel of Findhorn? Do you think it makes a difference?
Well, personally, I wouldn't invoke the angel of Findhorn. I'd invoke God.
Did you finish that sentence? I didn't hear the end of that sentence.
I said I'd invoke God.
You invoke God.
because the angels are just the way God works. But
so does it make any difference whether we are co-creating with nature or just...
if we're working with a certain department, we work with the manager of that department, shall we say. And, if we're going to work with nature, we want to work with the fellow who's in charge. You mean what? How do you mean what about it?
Well, I mean, it was all new to me, this quite relevant stuff, and there's a lot of talk about it, and it's created a little bit of friction. Some people are interested in,
Well, it's sort of an esoteric term which has been used through the ages of, I think, talking about the great helpers on the other side, the masters and the planetary beings and whatever it is that is trying to help humanity. And there's been divided up into different groupings of doing different tasks. And I don't think it's a thing that, because it's not normally known, that you want to talk about too much. But obviously, we've had help through the ages from other great beings. And to invoke them is helpful. But they work under God.
So I'd like to understand a little bit better what you said earlier about processes of attunement. You said a couple of things that struck me.
Could you use the microphone?
Yeah, sure, I can't see it. Thank you. So you said a couple of things earlier about kind of what is appropriate to do in an attunement and what we can expect in an attunement, and I wanted to understand that more fully. Because you said that, as I understand it, you said we shouldn't go into an attunement and ask a question.
I didn't mean that.
So you didn't mean...
that we shouldn't ask questions.
Uh-huh.
Of course we can ask questions. At first I didn't ask questions because I was told to have no preconceived ideas of what was coming and keep my mind clear and have my mind as a reflector instead of a full of questions sort of thing. But of course we can ask questions. But we don't, what I mean is that we're not living the spiritual life just so we can grow a garden or whatever it is. We're living the spiritual life so we can live all our life from the qualities of the divine within us. And through that, getting into the attitude, or the right attitude, then our minds come in and can be used to answer the questions. If the minds are focusing on the right attitudes. To me, the attitude is more important than any answers.
I guess I'm thinking, like, on occasions, I sit in management, and on occasions, if there's a particularly complex or difficult decision to make, which we can't seem to kind of resolve very easily, then we might take that into silence and into an attunement to see what other wisdom there is. And that feels kind of like a help process. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Of course.
Yeah, the other thing you said was that we might also get very different answers because our minds are different, but that if we were attuned with our higher selves, then those differences wouldn't be in conflict with each other, but would blend with each other. And I guess I'm just trying to think what that might look like, because I've I guess understood more that if we were really all aligned, then we would all arrive at the same destination, we'd all arrive at the same conclusion.
We would, but we'd see it differently. There's no artist that paints a tree the same way, although it's the same tree, and it's the same painting of the tree.
Over here.
So Dorothy, I'm interested in going back to Michelle's coning that she offered to us. For a number of years we have invoked Pan and the angel of Fintorn and the landscape angel in attunement processes. And you sort of mentioned that the people in charge of nature people to invoke. I'm wondering who is in charge, and do you have any suggestions about how we would set up that part of attunement with nature? Would we do it through the angel of Fintorn?
You mean Michelle's method?
Yes, or if we were to create something for ourselves. Say, we agree that we want to have a co-creative partnership with nature in this community. Do you have a suggestion about which part of nature we would call in to support us with that?
Well, it depends what area of nature we'd be dealing with. Have you got any specifics?
Well, what area of nature would we be dealing with if we called in Pan?
Well, you shouldn't ask me about Pan. It wasn't mine. And I see him as a part of the woodlands and sort of the consciousness of, well, no, I haven't actually contacted Pan, so I really can't answer that one.
So what if we were to call in the angel of Fintorn?
Well, I would say I would always call in God first, and then if we needed a particular question that's regarding the angel of Fintorn, call in the energies. Call in the purpose that the angel of Fintorn has for us, and try and tune into that.
Thank you.
Here's one.
I'm just thinking that, but nature covers everything, doesn't it?
In a way, it does.
Buildings and houses and creation of new things. So maybe we have to be asked the day.
But in one way, I find it very. If you're going to accept her definition, I just take it as it is and see if you can work with it. I don't see a building as part of evolution myself.
Okay.
I see it as part of the man-made thing.
Yes, but it still has to be created. The form has
Yes,
to
but
be created.
anything in evolution has been created. It's already balanced.
Okay.
I would see it as part of evolution.
I think she does too. That's my understanding of what she was saying. Any man-made entity is part of evolution. It's only essentially the David's nature spirits that there are in the evolutionary arc.
How can I understand that I can tune in to a deva of particular...
Could you put the microphone?
I understand that I can tune into the deva of a particular thing or a particular task that I'm doing, and that there are an enormous number of devas to tune into, that override various things. And that if I tune in, it's important to release. What I don't understand is how I can live on a practical level, co-creatively with nature, without tuning in and tuning out 500 times a day.
Well, to tell the truth, I don't tune out. I just tune in, and then I get back to my normal self again, or to my everyday self, shall I say. And that doesn't seem to knock me out. I mean, hopefully, my goal would be to be open without having to tune in. To be open on those dimensions all the time. That's my goal. I'm not, obviously. So I'd have to address, if I want to tune into some particular aspect of nature that I'm dealing with. Say I come across a squirrel and I want to communicate with the squirrel. I have to focus on it. And try and, from a higher level, because I always do it from my own soul level, and focus on the soul level of the angel of the squirrels, or whatever it is. And then when I'm finished, I'm finished. You know, I don't have a ritual for tuning in or tuning out, except for trying to be in the highest that I know.
So just say more about that. If you were trying to tune into the angels and the squirrels, what would you do?
Yeah. Well, if I really wanted to know about this, I would figure out what was the energy of a squirrel. I can only do it, it's not a mental exercise. To me, it's an energy thing, and I've got to know what a squirrel is like and how it behaves and feel it. Otherwise, to me, the contact would just be purely intellectual and wouldn't be real. So I get into my highest level that I know, and I can get at the time, and go to the equivalent high level of the squirrel and communicate. Ask something, or receive something, or give something. And it would be nice if I didn't have to tune up, because just to live in the soul level all the time would be perfectly aligned with the whole of me all the time, I think would be a great asset.
A what?
An asset. I mean, that to me is what humanity is trying to do, is to be aligned with all its bodies all the time. To have our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies in alignment.
It has died. Connect immediately to the bearer of this microphone.
Here comes David the microphone now. Michael?
If you sit next to Dorothy, then I might say, shall I try that?
Maybe I can sit down. Something to do.
Yes.
What both of you were saying brings me back to perhaps a little more clearly what I meant in the beginning. If we talk about bringing heaven down on earth, which is also, I guess, what this community is about, then I also see meditation or tuning in as something which also goes beyond the level of the mind. I know we can use the mind for meditation, we can use meditation, but my experience of meditation is tuning into the level that is beyond all of that and becoming more and more the witness. Also, the more we are the witness, the more totally we dare go into life, as you were talking about, without fearing the consequences, without having to protect the edges too much. And what you say, Dorothy, about not tuning in and not tuning out, I understand what you mean. I don't tune in and out either. And this is also, I think, what I meant in some way, that the community coming together each day, even just a short period of time, and together not having any focus, not trying to answer any questions, but simply tuning in together to each individual can reach, I feel collectively is a faster way of all coming to this level where you're not tuning in and out, where you're living. Do you know what I mean? You're living the highest, and where you start seeing problems solve themselves also in community life. Even though there's differences, it's like there's not the conflict, because problems somehow solve themselves.
Well, my answer, thinking to answer that, is that we have our own wholeness within us. Yes. And if we work from that, we're part of the wholeness of everyone. If we try and consciously tune into the wholeness of everyone, I don't think we can do it. My mind doesn't know what your mind's going on, everyone else's mind. But if I can tune into the God within me, that's all I need. That's all the... I will be shown how to best communicate with anyone else's mind. And I don't think I want to throw the mind away, because otherwise I don't know what's going on. The mind, they talk about the mind being the slayer of the real in Indian talk.
Yes.
It's also the connection with the real. Because if we don't know what's going on, it's useless. We're just floating around in nothingness.
Yes, I often say the mind can be in the way or it can be the way.
Yes.
It depends how we use it.
That's right. Yeah. And I think it'd be wonderful you could do what you're saying. But I think we all have to get very connected with ourselves before we can do that.
Okay, but perhaps we could also look at the aspect of resonance. 50 people doing that each day, 20 who were connected through resonance would help the other 30 to connect more quickly, perhaps. It's just a suggestion.
I don't know. We tried it one time and said that, and Rock used to say that 20 was the maximum, then beyond that I got confused. I don't know. That's someone, I'm quoting someone else.
What got confused? What got confused?
What the message? I mean, the message got confused.
What got confused?
Oh, the power didn't get any stronger.
But that's not to say the benefit didn't grow.
Yeah, so he's saying that it didn't help having more than that. But that, again, I'm quoting someone else. I don't like to do that.
I guess I can see where that would still, we all were, in my nervous voice, we were all,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Just to take it on that point, Dorothy, for your quoting someone else, I would think the benefit would still be to all of those present. You know, that increases by coming together and meditating. It may not, what Rock was saying, it may not send out more energy, more juice, to use an expression. But I would see that it would land with those present. So, still to gain.
It would seem that. That's not what he said. That's all I can say to that.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to something you said earlier about nature, and nature runs itself, but humanity messes it up. So is humanity that different to nature? Is it separate to nature?
No. And so we say it messes it up because we don't see the purpose of our messes, but we learn by trial and error. So our errors help us. We're the thinking part of nature. We've developed the mind, so we're separate that way. But that wasn't a mistake. That was what they call the fall, I believe, in the Garden of Eden, but it was the development of the mind, and given the gift of free will and individuality, so that we can choose to be whole and not just be obediently whole.
And you also say about humanity's desire to be whole and play in touch. Do you get any sense at all if humanity is progressing? Because outwardly it seems it's not. It seems to be kind of digging itself a deeper hole. Do you get a sense of anything?
Oh, I think it's progressing.
Yeah.
Oh, very much. There have been far more people nowadays that would ever talk in these ways than there were, say, 50 years ago. You get hardly anybody.
But it's also true in the first effect is more intense.
Yes, but there's more light, there's more dark. They're going maybe in balance towards and giving us choices. And this darkness is choosing us, our pollution is making us make different changes. It's helping us, this darkness, to choose a better way.
And going back also to, you mentioned about angels and families and countries. To tune in, is their objective to help humanity, and through humanity help humanity? To like work through.
Sorry, say that again?
You were saying about angels earlier, working through people. Is that the way they are trying to help humanity? Is that their objective, and is that how they're doing it?
Who's they?
The angels.
Yes, the angels and the white brotherhood. Yes, I mean, humanity, we're the ones that have to change, and we're the ones that have the opportunity to change, and the free will, and then they made the mess. Obviously, that's happening.
But you say that something through us, like if we were to tune in, if we were to be in tune with angels and with whatever's high, does it work through us to be able to enliven humanity as a whole?
Yes, I mean every reform starts with one person. And as we're changed, we can't help but change those around us. Because we react differently. Instead of getting annoyed at people, we're going to send them love and they're going to be very surprised and change. I mean, we can't help but change the world as we change ourselves.
Thank you.
Angels of family. Is that something that we've created or that existed before? Is it something, okay, my family, I think, is my father, my mother, my sister, and myself. So the angel of our family, did we create it? Or is it something that's been coming through the generations?
I think it's been coming through generations.
Okay.
In the sense that some of the cultures talk about ancestor worship, I think that's linked up with that.
Okay, and then I can understand you talking about angels of countries as a huge purpose, but what is the angel of family?
What is an angel of family?
What's its purpose? I mean, is it to help?
Well, we have in each one of us, we have certain patterns of learning and patterns of giving and so on. And our soul chooses to be in a certain family for a certain reason. We need those parents particularly to learn certain lessons from. And so this is you can't talk on it from just one life. I mean, it goes, to me, I believe in many lifetimes. And it's linked up with that.
So if I've just had insight into a pattern that's been running through my family, that angel is working with us so that we learn from this pattern and grow as much as we can with it, or in
or generate to change it.
it.
Yes, there's often family patterns that are not very helpful.
Yeah. Can you say any more before I guess it's because I'm going to be seeing my family, and this is really beautiful.
Just keep your fingers crossed.
Thanks. No, it's a really beautiful thought to leave with, is to go be with my family with this awareness of another level.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you.
You've spoken about identity and about change, and I seem to hear you equating dark with pollution a moment ago, and I just wanted to ask you something about the potential for change in the language and the way in which we identify things. I was not at Michelle's talk, but I've heard people talking about the Great White Brotherhood, and my spiritual awakening happened for me in Africa with the Black Sisterhood.
Same thing, I expect.
I expect it is the same thing, but I'm quite a newcomer here, and I've been very aware, after having done some work in the wide world around the racism that exists in our culture, of the exclusivity of the language of spirituality.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking to seek to change, that goddess is what I work with, and dark is what I work with. And it seems to me that when we equate the dark with pollution and seek to feel that pulling in the light is the thing that we most need to do, that for me, that doesn't give me the opportunity to acknowledge that I came from the dark, that we all came from a dark place within the body of our mothers, and that all our nourishment comes from the dark place within the body of Mother Earth. And so I'm just interested in how we might bring some of that back.
Yes, I think we have a lot to learn in that respect. We judge the dark as bad. We judge the dark as negative. We judge anything negative as bad, except in electricity. And we've got to change that. Because yeah. Oh dear. We were burning leaf. That's something that concerns me very much. Because, as I said, the angels are about polarity, and we haven't got words for it. Like the angel of joy, the angel of sorrow is one angel. And all these polarities are, from one point of view, before they're manifested on the earth, they're a seed quality which comes out in the positive and the negative, both equally valuable if we can see the millenniums of how they work out. Lucifer means the bringer of light.
Say something about the benefits or otherwise of silent meditation as opposed to led and guided meditations, and also like the use of themes as we do in Sanctuary Day. Mondays, this Tuesday, Wednesday, something else. Because I often come into Sanctuary feeling that what I really need is silence, and then we have a guided meditation around a particular theme that doesn't really serve me. But I don't know. Just curious to know your views about that.
Well, my personal views is for a silent meditation. I thought that a guided meditation takes me straight out of the heavenly views back into the world sense. But that's me. That's me. Lots of people, guided meditation helps, gets them into a state where they can be more open to the divine. So I think one just has to probably let both happen.
And would I be right in assuming that in the early days you didn't really have guided meditations?
No.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure meeting you. I'm learning a lot about what you said. The question goes to your interaction with the angels and you received in regards to lessons of fears.
Lessons of fear.
Yes.
Well, to me, fear is one of those emotions that we have we've gone overboard in the negative on that respect. Fear is not an angel. Angel is not a good or bad thing. Fear is a human emotion which I think was originally, I think the animal started, it was a protection, wasn't it? With the animals to have fear so they could run away. And we have, with our free will, made a real bogey out of it. And probably it's the last one that we'll have to deal with before we get into wholeness. It's this sort of skin that keeps us separate. It's almost fear of losing our individuality. I don't know if that answers you.
Yes, it answers and it asks that in regards to why sometimes we might stay in our head and not allow ourselves to go in our heart and feel, at least from this one.
Mm-hmm. you, they're real boogies in the astral plane of fear. So, doesn't mean we're as powerful as we are.
I'd like to ask a question to you and to all of us here, everyone, maybe to myself as well. Do you think that it would be a good idea to get to know much more about what we're talking about, all these different definitions, white brotherhood, black sisterhood, nature, spirits, meditation, whatever. Yeah, in one way, Julia, you asked a question before, and you answered with, like, wrote it in a ball or something, throw it out the window. Everybody laughed. And to me, that's the most essential thing of this evening. I don't think we should laugh at this. We should take this very serious. You know, like my way to spirituality, or what we call spirituality, has been like through hard work, through the patterns of my family and the patterns of myself, of course. But yeah, what happened in my family, it took me a long time to get there. Really, I didn't believe in my inner voice. I realized I always had inner voice. I hadn't been able to listen to it. I always heard something else inside of me. I realized it was my father, my society, it was my mother, and so on. And I still need to be reminded of that. I do hear my inner voice. Yeah, I hear God within myself. But I attempt not to call it God, or I don't call it God, I call it my core, or my center, or myself. And I think people often tell me that I've got a quite grounded spirituality. And I think that's what it is in one way.
It's a what?
A grounded spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Would it make sense to you to have more education about what spirituality is, personal development, all these definitions? Because that's what I hear from all these meetings I've been to, like the last 2 months.
I think we have to, if we have a curious mind, we want to find answers. And we have this, what I call divine discontent within us, which is wanting to find answers. And if it's on the mental level, all right, there's lots of books on the astral level and spirituality and the white brotherhood and the dark underground and whatever. If we're interested in that, I think it's valid that we find our answers. But as you say, we're going to find the real answers from within. We're going to find the only thing that satisfies us. All the others will be sort of passing interest. Or the other will be the reality that we can take with us always.
So what do we do to find a common ground to stand on, to be like? What do we do to create that?
How do you think about the common ground?
In order to make, hear a lot about the community developing and finding new ways and all that kind of stuff.
Well, at the moment, I'm just suggesting you try Michelle's thing and see what happens.
Good.
Maybe you're going to throw it out or not. But, try something.
Okay.
Our problem with trying something is that it seems to be that we can't all agree. We can't get past the fact that, we can't really get behind.
Can you get behind just this one thing?
I can, but that doesn't mean to say that everybody, and to be fair, there are other things that I find it difficult to get behind. So,
Well, I think we have to, if we're going to work as a community, we have to at least accept some process and get behind it till we find it doesn't work or something, or at least let experiment with it and find out, and be supportive of it as much as we can, because otherwise nothing will work. Nothing.
I thought it's quite important for me to say how it is for me in terms of what I find still very special about this place. I work in London Gardens and I live in Queenie, reason why I find myself in both of those environments, because what seems to be essential about this place is when I experience people coming to visit this place, and just watching the transformation that occurs within individuals over a week, just a week in somebody's life. I mean, it's quite incredible when you see somebody come into the gardens, then we have a completion on Friday morning, and they just explain how it's been for them, coming from some other part of the world and visiting this community. And although, we're very critical of what we do here, for me it's just very special to watch that taking place, and for me it's very important that we stay aligned with what we're offering all these people that still come and visit this community, and somehow we feed off and remind ourselves again and again that this is what we're here for, and to kind of engender that spirit within the way that we live together. I wonder if you could, what prompted me to say that was let's talk about whether we should have more kind of classroom situations where we talk about definitions, and I'm very afraid of going back into this intellectualization of spirituality when I've worked with people in the garden and we can't even speak the same language, and yet there's some kind of connection through the work and through what we're doing together, which, eating together, working together, sharing, building together, this seems to be the core of, for me, what this place is about.
Yes, and that comes from this alignment, to me, the alignment with spirit and love and all those things, and that, of course, has to be behind all these studies. If it isn't, they're useless.
But it goes beyond language.
It goes beyond language. It's nothing to do with language. I was told to put it into language. I had to write things down, so I had to do that. Because it's a good thing if you put it in language, because it brings it down into one more form, which is available, it's more grounded. And of course, to get into that attitude that you have here and go outside and take it outside and have the same things happen away from you. That's what I'm doing. Lots of others.
Question in the back.
Up there.
To the idea of the angel of the family, and just the idea of how I could perhaps work with that with my family. And just in thinking about that, I would have immediately thought, well, it's who my family is now, which is myself and my two daughters. But you said, I think I understood that you said it comes from generations and generations back in your family. And my difficulty is to picture how, when you get married to somebody in another family who's angel in their family goes back generations in their family, then you must have two angels. Or then if that's happened over generations and generations, that's more than that must have happened over and over. So,
it all went up Adam and Eve.
Sorry?
We go back to Adam and Eve. It also goes back and goes forward too. But it doesn't matter. The angels haven't got skins that keeps them solid. They can blend into others, and people come together in a marriage. An angel is there. You don't have to worry about separate angels. They look after all that.
Thank you.
Well, maybe it's time.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This is a joy to have you.
Thank you.
Do we want to express it in some way?
Thank you for being so patient.
kind of like storytelling, you know, in a living room kind of setting. I mean, I was always down here, but it had something very intimate. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, thanks for the setup. It makes it much nicer.